Hello, amateurs, and welcome back to another episode of Hot Topics. We've got some more Super Rugby chat for you today, and we've got Barto here. Barto, how are you?
Yeah, very good, Tim. Yourself, mate?
Very, very well. Now, what we're looking at is the effect of the ELVs in this year's Super Rugby, and all the stats are showing that the game is sped up, it's much quicker, and as a result, more points at the moment. Barto, what can you add?
Yeah, absolutely. So after we're now after five full rounds and the first two games of the sixth round. But after four rounds, the governing body put out a few stats which were really quite interesting. So they averaged 61 points per game. The match duration, has gone down from 98 minutes last season to below 92 minutes this season. So basically, 6 minutes of dead time has disappeared from each match. And they're pulling that down, obviously, to the law variations around the speed up around the ruck, speed up around the scrums, the kicks, penalty kicks, all those sort of reset. The law variation we talked about where the red card or the yellow card then gets referred off to the TMO. So there's some huge impact it's having, and coaches and players are saying that the physical impact is noticeable, like massively noticeable, and you're seeing in those last 20 minutes points are being poured on by both teams because fatigue's beginning to hit both teams. Yeah, and so 61 point average per game it was after four full rounds, and pretty good last week and beginning of this week already.
Cool. I mean, I've got a quote here from Ardy Surveyor who said, personally, I need all the rest I can get, but it's cool because it literally goes down to who can last the longest, who can hold on to the ball the longest, which sounds like really positive rugby to me.
Oh, massively! I've just literally just finished watching the Reds versus the Crusaders, and teams just go at it. They literally just go at it and keep going and keep going. And there are mistakes because and especially towards that second half, teams are getting really quite tired. But I would say handling errors may have increased. I can't say that that's a definite, but watching it, that's what I perceive. But as a result, you're seeing broken line. You're seeing players. The number of tries being scored is huge, and penalty kicks for goal, not many at all. They're going for line out, they're going for the corner, they're going for quick taps. It's really speeding up the game and making a big difference.
Yeah. Now, people listening, if you want to find out more of the detail, Barto and I did a couple of previous videos, so please go and check those out. But just on the point of more points equals more fun, I don't think that's necessarily true. So tell me, like, how competitive are these games? Because I think it's more about the contest, more than the actual number of points. What are you seeing?
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. I mean, I'm a big like Super Rugby's been going for 27 years, okay, and I've watched, I reckon, most of that. And there was a stage where I thought Super Rugby was glorified sevens because defence was almost non-existent. That's not the case right now. What the case is right now is defence is still huge. They pick and choose when they're going to attack the breakdown. They're much smarter about that. They may not go at it every breakdown. And then what's happening, obviously, as a result, is the points are flowing. Now, will that flow into international rugby? It'll be very interesting if, for example, Australia or New Zealand play against France or Ireland, and if they stand off a few rucks and that, it may be found out because I don't believe these law variations will be brought in for the World Cup because they never tend to do that. So it's going to be a bit of a throw it in the air and see what happens because if teams stand off from the breakdown in the World Cup and you play in the likes of France or Ireland, you're going to get beaten at the breakdown, which is, as we know, where you win your matches. Right now in Super Rugby, they do that. They pick and choose when they go in. But defence is not bad. It's like fantastic defence. It's attacking, like really flowing rugby that's causing a lot of issues for defensive teams.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched a fair few of the highlights from this year's Super Rugby, and the number of tries that I put down to like just bad tackling or just bad defense, it's not that many. There's a lot of really creative attacking kicks and a lot of good play, and obviously fatigue, which I think is causing the points. Just going on to the thing you said there about moving forward to the World Cup and the ELVs probably won't be implemented. I agree. I doubt they will. But what we are seeing in the Premiership already is certain referees are visibly trying to speed the game up. People like Carl Dixon and Luke Pearce last weekend Carl Dixon gave a yellow card almost before the TV cameras sort of focused on him. It was done and the guy was off. So
Mm.
I feel like the game is going to get quicker in the Northern Hemisphere, whether it's not going to be the same, obviously.
Yeah, I've been watching the same. I've been watching the Premiership games as well. I think the same, and definitely are speeding it up. But it's that the ultimate thing here is they just want there's time limits. So there's set time limits. If you don't make the line out, if you don't, there's a free kick, and from that free kick, you can guarantee the scrum half is just tapping and going because he's then catching someone offside as well. So then it's a penalty. So it's just bang, 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 and it just flows and it flows, and it's working really, really well. The referees are buying into it because I think that's really what you've got to look at. Do they buy into it or not? Because at the end of the day, they're the ones on the pitch. If they decide to be quite lax around the 30 seconds to set your scrum or 60 seconds to kick a penalty or whatever it may be, then obviously it's going to have no effect. But they are really buying into it and going for it. Some interesting plays today where Damon Murphy was a referee in the Crusaders against the Reds that's just finished, and he absolutely just flogged them. Turnover, there was a knock on. If you hadn't, advantage was over within 10-15 seconds. If they'd gone past the gain line, advantage over, play on. Next thing you know, they've messed up, ball goes the other way. So he was really into just speeding the game up and going for it.
Yeah, it does sound like a good product. Now, tell me, Barto, what I gave you a quote there from Marty Sevilla, but what are some of the other players or coaches saying at the moment?
Definitely saying that it's really testing them physically, as in aerobically. A lot of the players are really beginning to sort of notice the difference. You see the subs coming on as they have been, I suppose, 50, 60 minutes, but they're actually making more of an impact because teams are really quite tired at that stage. And then those guys who are playing 80 minutes, they are your absolute elite athletes. The guys who are sticking in for 80 minutes are the guys who you would sort of, your RD Sevillas. For the Reds, just done it, Harry Wilson, Richie Moanga, and those guys are staying on the pitch because they have the influence, they have the physical capability to stay on, they also have the influence to run a game for that period of time.
Yeah, so the other thing that I'm interested in as well is that I think the game in the Northern Hemisphere has become everybody plays the same sort of way, the same patterns. And I think that's because there's less time, less space, so people just play to structure. Is this speeding up game, is it leading to more tactical variety as far as you can see?
Definitely. There's a hell of a lot more first phase moves. So, you go back to when we used to play at Colts, when you practice first phase moves and you may be able to, run them through and you might score tries from them. You move into senior rugby, it's very rare you can score from a first phase move. You're seeing 2 tries a game from first phase moves because there's players who are beginning to get tired. They're actually thinking about just quick play. There's quite a few quick taps, same as in the Northern Hemisphere now. You're sort of seeing the old wall at a penalty, 7 or 8 metres out, you're seeing that. You're seeing line out, ball to the front of the line out, peel round the back, the 7 or the winger hitting a gap. So to me, the first phase try numbers is massive compared to what it has been in previous years.
That's really interesting because you'd think, obviously, further down the phase count, more tries would come. But that's really interesting that it's also affecting first phase moves as well. Now, just looking forward to the World Cup, as you kind of mentioned there previously, which teams do you think this will be an advantage? Or do you think it might actually turn out to be a disadvantage for these Super Rugby teams? They may have a really strong aerobic base, but they may be slightly underpowered or slightly underweight compared to some of the teams that aren't playing these ELVs. What do you think?
Yeah, really hard one to say, actually, Tim. I'll be honest with you. Obviously, I think Ireland and France are huge at the moment. New Zealand, for them, are still world class, but for them, haven't had a great last couple of years. Australia are building. I'm actually really tempted to say I think South Africa are sleeping giant. You see a lot of their training and what they're going through. They're playing very little rugby internationally. Their teams are playing up in the URC or in the Curry Cup or whatever it may be. I'm still think that South Africa are going to show up and will show up really hard at this World Cup. to me, it's out of Ireland, France, and South Africa. Whether it's an advantage, I don't think it will be an advantage. The guys will be fit, will be very, very fit, but it may be that they get into a habit of not attacking the breakdown, which they'll get exposed if they come against top team. Again, South Africa, Ireland, or France, if you don't compete in the breakdown, then you've been beaten.
Yeah, whichever way you cut this, I just think it makes a really interesting subplot to the whole thing. So I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of cutting dead time out of the game for sure. That's an absolute no-brainer for me. But people listening at home, what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Are you a fan of these ELVs? Do you think it makes sense? Do you see a more positive game as a result? And do you think they're going to be put into place long term? Barto, any sort of final thoughts?
Now, all I can say is I really hope they implement them. They won't do it before the World Cup, but I hope they implement them worldwide after the World Cup, because to me it's made it a much better spectacle. The only thing, and the commentator said it tonight, at the moment, if you get a free kick at a scrum, you can choose to have another free. You can choose to set down another scrum, and they said that needs to change. Let's go. If you get a free kick at a scrum, you must take a tap. And I agree. I think that's the way to go. So a few little tweaks will be needed, but to me, bring them in for the whole of the world, and you'll see a much faster, quicker game, which I think we're all after.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, if you've enjoyed this show, then please hit the thumbs up button down below and subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, get out and play.